What is up, YouTube? It's Kingfisher745, and this is going to be a new episode of Subscriber Squads. That's right, this is episode 2. We're going to feature 3 different teams today. And just in case you're new to the series, this is where we take subscriber-suggested teams and go ahead and use them in a video. And originally, we do try to show them in PvE and in PvP, but I just found that goes a little bit too long, so after this first team, we're just going to show the teams in PvP footage. And I think that's what everyone would prefer, because that's where the real action's at, in PvP battles. Also, since there's been so many suggestions, I'm going to try to do episodes more frequently. That way we can get through a bigger number of the teams that are suggested. So if you don't see your team in this video, don't worry about it. I will definitely get to it eventually, and hopefully sooner than later. Now, the very first team that we have involves kind of fire or a heat team, and that's going to be Red Hulk and Daimon Hellstrom. And one of my favorite parts about this team is, of course, Daimon Hellstrom and Cloaked in Shadows. That's going to make the entire team have stealthy attacks, including Red Hulk. On top of that, it gives us a 50% chance to avoid attacks. Next, we have the Red Hulk, who is pretty interesting with his attacks, and he also can even protect if you need him to. On Red Hulk's turn, we're going to go ahead and start off by using his level 1 on this Scrapper. And that should finish the Scrapper off, so now we're just down to one more enemy in this wave. After the very next wave, we'll be going into PvP battles, and it's going to be only PvP for the rest of the video. Now, on our agent, you may have noticed that we do have the Mercurial equipped. I really am liking this weapon. It gives you quickness stacks, just like you would get if you were using Quicksilver. But it can actually gain quickness stacks also when an ally attacks or is attacked. So it's a pretty nice little sword right there. It can also work pretty well with some protect weapons, and that's because it will be counterattacking quite often, because you do gain those quickness stacks, like I said, when an ally attacks or is attacked. Not always or every time, but it is pretty consistent. Now, on Daimon Hellstrom's turn, we're going to finish off this tactician, hopefully. So we do hit him, and unfortunately he lives with just 447 health. Although that Soulfire will tick and finish him off. Now onto the final wave. And we are facing 3 enemies in this wave, but I'm going to start out with the Succubus Beast with 2 backs. Now this move will consume Burning and Dark Void from Daimon Hellstrom, but it can do a ton of damage to the entire wave of enemies. I really like this summon too, it looks pretty awesome. And you can see that all 3 enemies are almost finished from one attack. Like I said though, the only bad part is it does consume both of Daimon Hellstrom's buffs. But this is something that you have to watch out for even when you're using a scroll, and you kind of have to weigh your options. Daimon and Satana can kind of be a double-edged sword because they do have debuffs as their buffs, so the enemy can't remove them. But if you have to use a scroll for like any main purpose to remove stuns or any terrible debuffs or buffs from the enemy, you're going to also remove their buffs. And that actually may come into play in this battle because we're going to have to remove that Strengthened as well as Combat Expertise from this team. If we don't, we're going to be in big trouble. Now, for some odd reason, their Bruiser agent decides to attack Daimon Hellstrom with his first hit. But instead of attacking back first, we're going to use Cloaked in Shadows. That way we gain Skittering Darkness and a 50% chance to avoid all attacks, as well as making our attacks stealthy. So at this point, we really don't have to worry about Combat Expertise and that counterattack, and that's because all our attacks are stealthy, as long as we have Skittering Darkness. On our agent, we are using the Monstrosity, so we cannot be stunned. We're also using the Scroll, Coulson's Revenge, and Warbringer Axe. Since we're an infiltrator, let's fire that Coulson's Revenge at the tactician. Unfortunately, he dodges it, and that would have been a pretty big attack, so it's unfortunate that we missed. Next, we're going to Gamma Bomb everyone, and that's because it causes a ton of side effects, and also radiation exposure. So it's always worth using just to see which side effects it'll cause. You see it causes Intimidated, Off Balance, Cornered, Staggered, Exhausted, Poisoned, Winded. It just goes on and on. And that Exhausted is actually going to come in really handy against Cyclops. Since Gamma Bomb caused Exhausted on Cyclops, he's going to use Evasive Maneuvers, and that's going to be the end of his turn, so he won't even get an attack. And we're pretty lucky there because he did get Flames of Destruction, so it probably would have been a pretty bad attack. Next, they're going to use the Warsplitter Axe, and luckily our agent dodges it, and he will get his Infiltrator counterattack, so we put some damage on that Bruiser agent. Next, we're going to do some major damage with Daimon Hellstrom. We could hit either Bruiser, and it's going to be a critical hit. So we go after their agent since he's already weakened, and he's down to just 11,000 health. Since Daimon is fully buffed up, he also gets to heal himself, and you see it does a pretty nice heal at over 11,000. We thought maybe a Searing Smash could end it. It didn't exactly finish him off, but maybe the dots will. Next up is going to be their Juggernaut, and he is going to get Flames of Destruction and use a Sunday Punch. I actually was kind of shocked that we dodged that, but we did have Skittering Darkness, so without that there's no way we would have dodged it. And once again we do counterattack. Now we decide to use the Scroll, even though like I said it's going to remove Daimon's buffs. So that was kind of a bad idea, but at the same time I really didn't want them to be fully strengthened and everything else. Also I figured we're going to be taking the agent out, and I do believe we're going to win this battle pretty easily. We're also going to want to cast Cloak of Shadows once again, that way we can refresh Skittering Darkness on our entire team. So that's going to be half of his buffs anyway. And time again you see we're dodging their attacks. That shows you how powerful Skittering Darkness and Daimon Hellstrom can be. The enemy team really has to remove it, or else they're going to be in a heap of trouble. With Daimon, that Mind Control summon can also be pretty interesting. And I'm thinking about placing him with Spider-Woman and trying out a Mind Control team. Of course, there's some other characters that are capable of it as well. I was thinking with that new Loki Scepter on my agent, Daimon Hellstrom and maybe Spider-Woman, you could really have some fun with some enemy teams. Now Juggernaut is up once again, and we'll see just how much damage he can do. So he does have Flames of Destruction, and he uses Mountain Crusher, but we dodge once again, and Skittering Darkness pops up, then we get our counterattack. So this is pretty insane at this point. We're dodging just about everything they throw at us. And luckily these battles are against the AI, because I know that a normal opponent would have rage quit at this point. We finally do get a coordinated attack, and that's going to be the end of Juggernaut. Next, we might as well use the Bunker Buster. It does almost 9k, but that's plenty enough to finish Cyclops. Now on to our second team of the video. This team was named by the subscriber Thunder Gods or Patriotic Bullets. The interesting thing about this team is many of you may know this is my fast clear team. So this is the team that I use a lot of times when I'm just trying to farm weapons or command points. The reason for that is because they do a ton of damage, and they clear entire waves of enemies with their AoE attacks. The same can definitely be said when you're fighting against PvP opponents. The only thing is turn order is pretty key. Especially for Thor, who starts out with those 2 might buffs, and he does his most damage with Summon Thunder at the beginning. But War Machine, even though you want him to go early in the battle, he isn't as badly affected by going later. And that's because he keeps gaining those stacks of charged capacitors, plus he has a full overcharge, in which he can use at any time to get 3 stacks. Now normally I like to start out with a 21 gun salute, then on the very next turn, use a full overcharge, and fire that 21 gun salute again. The radiation exposure alone, if the opponent can't remove it, will do so much damage, and it will take out an entire team. Now since all of the enemies had combat expertise, and we also had an infiltrator on the other side, we decided to focus on that blaster with the Repulsor Beam. We're also going to get another turn with Iron Patriot, and that's because he did gain tactical maneuvers from that blaster. So hopefully after our agent removes all their buffs, War Machine can really go off with the 21 gun salute. Now thanks to Inspire Bravery, it's also going to be strengthened. So right now we have to decide what we want to do with Thor. Should we single target attack someone, or go ahead and use Summon Thunder? We do have to worry about all those counterattacks, so what we're going to do is single target attack Cyclops with a hammer throw, and that hopefully will finish him and at least trigger Death and Rebirth. After Death and Rebirth triggers, we can kind of go on and try to finish their entire team with Iron Patriot's 21 gun salute. Now what we didn't account for was that Cyclops was going to be able to kill Thor with that blast. Still, I'm not too worried about it, because we're going to remove everything with the Scroll of Angalob, and then definitely use a fully charged 21 gun salute. Let's also weaken that Phoenix while we're at it, so we'll use Coulson's Revenge on her, and that takes 21,000 health off of her. Now it's time for Iron Patriot. Remember, Iron Patriot doesn't just do that initial damage from the 21 gun salute, he also puts tons of radiation exposure on the enemies. The only opponent that may live through this will be their agent, but I'm pretty confident that Cyclops and Phoenix are both going to be killed. And hopefully Phoenix won't counterattack. And she's not able to because the second wave killed her, and she would have counterattacked right after that, just before the third attack. So now their agent is all the way down to 12,981 HP, and they're taking 3 stacks of radiation exposure. That knocks them down to 8,000. They also had hold the line so they don't even get a turn. So we decided to finish it with the Mercurial. And now we're on to the third team, which has a king and a queen, Black Panther and Storm. I really wasn't sure how this team would do. I know both of these characters are pretty decent, but you hardly ever see them in PvP. Our agent will get the first attack, and we're going to use the scroll right away, that way we remove those 2 might stacks from Thor. Then we're going to use the Sinister Scepter, but their agent will protect against it. Now they're going to get 3 turns in a row, so this kind of seemed pretty scary at first. This was of course before the turn order changes. So they get 3 turns, but this no longer will happen. And this is one of the things that I'm pretty grateful about the changes. I like alternating turns. It's much more fair. Now on to P5 Phoenix. She is a blaster, so that actually helps us out because we do have a tactician in Black Panther. She's going to use Telekinesis on Storm, which is an interesting choice. She usually tries to use that on your agent. Next, their agent uses the Monstrosity, so obviously they cannot be stunned. We use Panther Stance, and then we're going to use his level 1. Now the good news is Phoenix used Mind Link on herself, so she stepped up to take it. That means we get another turn due to tactical maneuvers, so we get to use his level 2 as well. We know that Phoenix will step up and take this, all we have to do is target their agent. So this is definitely a case when Mind Link backfired. And there's Death and Rebirth already, so we should be able to finish Phoenix off before we even have to worry about a Phoenix Fire. With Storm, we're going to use Blizzard, and that's going to hit their entire team pretty hard, but most importantly, it will finish Phoenix. Next, we're really considering using the Warbringer Axe on their agent, and this will bring them down at least 50%. It's probably our best chance because it does ignore defense. But instead, we go ahead and recharge and stay in Astral form. And that's because we did think a Summon Thunder was coming. Our entire team did live through it, so we're still in pretty good position in this battle. Now all we have to do is wait for their agent, who uses the Warbringer Axe. And yes, once again, I know this was changed. You no longer can protect when you're phased. This video pretty much has the last of the older footage, and I really wanted to release this Subscriber Squad episode sooner, but I unfortunately couldn't. Once we get around to Storm's turn here, we're going to be able to finish off their agent. She's only at 8,400 health, and we're just going to use Storm's level 1. That should do plenty of damage. So let's go ahead and single target attack with a lightning. Next, it will be our agent's turn, and he's going to get pretty close to ending this battle with an attack from the Warbringer Axe. Then we have to wait for Thor to attack once again, and Black Panther gets to finish this one off. So like I said, this team did kind of surprise me, and it's a pretty decent team. But as we're coming to the end of this episode, I do want to go ahead and note, if I didn't use your team yet, I will try to use it as soon as possible. There's a pretty long list. Secondly, if you suggested one of these teams and I missed your name, don't get too upset. Just go ahead and leave me a comment, and I will include it in the very next episode. Lastly, let me know in the comment section below if you prefer just having PvP battles. Now what this is going to do is allow me to feature more teams and also do episodes more frequently, so I'll get around to more of the suggested teams this way. So please let me know either way. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank you all for watching. If you liked the video, please leave a rating. And also, subscribe if you haven't done so. Until next time, good luck and take care.